this is the Homedale Football Early Off-Season Program. This is a 13-week period that I have to work with the kids. These are the kids that are not playing a winter sport. We train using a traditional block periodization model. So we have 1, 2, 3 blocks of training. Each block is a little bit different, but one block leads to the next and kind of sets the foundation for the rest of the year for training. This is the earliest part in the off season, so like I said, it's to set the foundation. So we usually start off with a transitional period, give them a couple days to hopefully a week or so to rest, get their bodies right, get healthy. We'll do a test to assess where they're at as far as their strength and power. We'll do a bench press, a squat, and a clean 1 rep max. It'd be great to do other things, but that's unfortunately all we really have access to because it's a weight room and all the other facilities are kind of taken for a run test or jump test. So we'll test and then we will start block 1, which is a hypertrophy block. So the point of a hypertrophy block is to increase muscle mass on your frame. We train 5 weeks in duration. It will be 4 weeks and then a deload on the 5th week. Usually that 5th week is winter break, so you really don't need to do much of a deload because we're only able to get in there about 2 days a week, so I kind of make that adjustment on the fly. I actually try and do that for all of the blocks that we do. When I know I have days off, we may not have good attendance. That's kind of the day that we'll have a deload, so hopefully it kind of works that way a lot of times, but you got to be creative. As far as the frequency, we'll train 4 days a week, so we'll do Monday upper body, Tuesday lower, Wednesday off, Thursday upper, Friday lower body. We'll do a high-low model, so that's higher intensity days and lower intensity days. So I'll stack their sprints, their jumps, their lower body training on the same days, and then on their upper body days, we'll try not to have them run at all. So it's a higher intensity day, lower intensity day, day off, and then repeat. That allows the kids to actually work really hard. They're not constantly beat up, run down. You kind of avoid overuse injuries, which can be common at this point in an athlete's life, teenagers. So the volume, that would be like the sets and reps, it's much higher at this point. The load, the weight on the bar is approximately 60 to 75%. I'll kind of go into how I program, and that's, percentages are really fluid, especially when kids are getting much stronger, so you really got to kind of adjust them on the fly, but generally that's approximately where we're at for our load on the bar. Our reps, our core lifts, like our bench presses, our squats, we're training in the 8 to 10 rep range. They're either doing straight sets where they do the same weight for all their sets, or they're descending sets where you start at a certain weight on the bar. You do, you try and hit 8 reps for say 225, as many sets as you can. If you start fatiguing, because you may be doing say 4 sets of 8 or 3 sets of 10, you may fatigue as the sets go on, then you lower the load, you'll take weight off the bar because lifting with good form and good technique and not missing reps is really crucial at this point. So for our plyometrics, I'll have them do broad jumps, vertical jumps, just a single jump with a stick, sticking the landing. Will increase the amount of reps they do from week to week, but they're just very remedial jumping exercises, kind of going over the basics, how to snap down, how to land properly, and then we can progress as the program goes on. For speed, agility, and conditioning, we really don't have access to anything because basketball's going on. You also have like winter track. You have a bunch of sports teams that are in the facilities, so we don't really have access to a lot of stuff. So we spend a lot more time on the resistance training end for the first month. So for block 2, this is in January. Again, we're going to run another hypertrophy block, and that is to put muscle mass on their frame. Like I said, it will be the same 5 weeks, 4 weeks of training, followed by a 1-week deload to decay fatigue, to get them fresh for the subsequent block. Again, we train 4 days a week, upper, lower, upper, off, upper, lower, higher intensity, lower intensity. Volumes high again, the weights continue to increase. Again, approximately 75 to 85%. And then we'll do straight sets or descending reps for our core lifts, in now like the 6 to 8 rep range, down from the 8 to 10 rep range. And this is excluding the assistance lifts that they're doing. So if you're doing dumbbell press variations, you're doing unilateral leg work, stuff like that, you're still going to train much higher repetitions. But for our core lifts, for our compound heavy lifts, these are primarily the sets and rep schemes that we're following. For our plyometrics, it will do double leg bounds and then lateral barrier jumps. So you practice doing a broad jumps, how to jump, stick the landing. Now we'll do a broad jump into a second broad jump. So add the reactive component into that. For our lateral jumps, that's just jumping over barriers to the side. So we get practice jumping up forward, up to the side, and then I'll go over what we do next from that. So you just go through basic progressions from one exercise to the next. As far as speed and agility, the gym usually opens up. It's still not great because some days you don't really know. You may have 30 minutes. Some weeks it may be 2 days a week for 40 minutes. You never really know, so you got to be pretty creative on what I'm doing. But a lot of it's working on mechanics, like different marches and stuff like that. Working on accelerations. We'll do a short to long model, so we don't have access to a track or longer distance, so we work on shorter distances and we kind of lengthen them out as the year goes on. As I'm able to take them outside for the spring. We'll do different start positions, and again, just working on mechanics and acceleration. For our agilities, I'll do a lot of just basic cone drills for change of direction, get them moving in different directions, and then progress them to a reactive component in the next block. But conditioning, setting an aerobic base, doing alactic capacity works. That could be, again, like the work to rest ratio for some of these cone drills may be 5 to 10 seconds, and then they're repeating every 30 to 40 seconds. So even though it's change of direction, agility type stuff, you're still getting the alactic capacity component in there. And so this is for the month of January. The last block we do will be a strength block. So again, we're really far out from the season, so putting on muscle mass is a really important part of is much higher priority at this point. However, you have a lot of kids that do play spring sports, and you want them to be prepared for the spring when their season comes around. So what we do is we lower the reps, we focus a little bit more on strength and power and explosiveness. The overall volume is decreased because the intensity and the weights go up. You can't handle training at such a high intensity with very heavy weights while doing a very large volume. We're gonna break down. So this is why we do 3 weeks, and we deload on the 4th week, and then we'll test after that. It's approximately 80 to 95% of their max. The reality is their original true max. Most of these kids are repping for triples at this point. Kids get very, very strong coming off of a very low volume program in the in-season training. So at this point, they've gotten substantially stronger, and I'll get into that in a minute. For our kind of our loading scheme here, we're doing ascending sets. So maybe week 1, set 1, 75%, set 2, 80, set 3, 85%. You're working your way up, and you're leaving a couple reps in reserve, but they're either ascending or just straight sets, the same weight across for all your sets. It's not as many sets and reps, so you're not going to fatigue by in your subsequent sets going forward, if that makes sense, hopefully. So double leg bounds, we'll do 1, 2, 3. So you'll go from one jump into a second into a third, stick the landing. Again, just progressing from the previous block. Then we'll do multi-directional jumps. So now the barrier jumps, you're gonna jump forward and the side, forward and the side. You add a reactive component, continuous component. Again, progressing from this block to this to this. You're setting them up for success because they actually know how to do it. Jump with basic mechanics. They know how to jump to the side and react, and then you kind of put it all together here, okay? For the speed, again, a lot of it's mechanics, acceleration. You try and throw in some type of different drills to vary it to keep them interested, but it's a lot of the same stuff, the same guidelines. Longer rest periods in between sets, so it's true speed work. You have them compete against one another so that they have maximal intent. If you're not running 100% speed, it's not true speed work. So that can be tough at the high school level, trying to explain that to people. But if you really want to get faster, you have to run fast. You have to run at 100% speed. So having them compete against one another is a great way to do that. Give them much longer rest periods. You can break them up into skill positions, semi-skills, and then bigs for different groups going at a time so that people aren't just waiting around for like 90 seconds or 60 seconds in between sets. For our agilities, you add more of a reactive component, so maybe like an audible cue that I'm giving them. It may be some type of tag game where they're reacting to one another. You can get really creative with this as well, and they usually have a lot of fun with it if you come up with the right drills. For conditioning, maybe more of like a shuttle run, and again, more alactic capacity, stuff that may be a little bit more specific to kids that are gonna go play sports. And then that's pretty much the entire plan for weeks 1 through 13. At the end of this, like I said, they'll deload, and then we'll test them again. We'll test their run rep max on their bench press, their squats, and their cleans. Most of them make a lot of progress. So let's see. Yeah, so again, the keys are we're running a mass phase, but you also want to prepare them for the kids that are going to play a spring sport. You're doing a high-low model to consolidate stress, so a higher intensity followed by a lower intensity day so that they don't get overtrained, beat up, or injured. We're doing a short to long sprint model, so shorter distances to longer distances when we have access to that. And then to go into a little bit greater detail as far as our actual loading parameters, other than just these basic percentages, here's an example. So say week 1, you want about 2 to 3 reps in reserve. So you may start at say 70%, okay, of your max for 3 sets of 10. Leave about 2 reps in the tank on all your sets. Week 2, for a lower body exercise like a squat, you may jump 20 pounds. Upper body, you may jump 10. You're getting a little bit closer to failure, maybe 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Week 3, you're going pretty close to failure again, the same increments. And then week 4, we deload, drop fatigue, decay fatigue, get them fresh, and then start a new block. So here's the general outline of pretty much what we're doing for 13 weeks. In the springtime, we gravitate a little bit more towards strength and power, and I'll probably put up some videos of these guys testing in the next month or so, and then I'll throw up one for the spring, and then hopefully preseason, then in season. As the year goes on, things vary, things change depending on what time of year it is. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you like anything, comment below or send me a DM. Thanks for watching if you watched, and hope you enjoyed it.